Everyone, today I want to introduce about this topic. So it's basically about Jacobian catalytic oxidation reaction. And after that, you will have a basic idea about how does a structure change in catalyst will actually lead to change in catalytic work, especially the substrates. And it will be presented by me, Nium and Rolf. The Jacobian catalytic oxidation is actually a type of oxygen transfer reaction which has two-step mechanism, and the intermediate, as you can see here, is called Jacobian catalyst, which is produced in the first step and be used as a carrier in second step. Actually, there are a variety of computational studies about these reactions, spin states, and reaction profiles as kind of problem, but nothing actually talk about the problems like catalyst turning. So this paper is gonna talk about that, and we will introduce you guys from this four area you can see here.
Thank you, Jensen. Now, in regards to the computational details, the density functional calculations were carried out on various manganese systems, which are active catalysts in the epoxidation of olefins. These calculations were done with corrections for exchange and correlation according to the Beck-and-Perdue functional, aka BP86. The local minima geometry were optimized within one RJ approximation using the local function correlation system, the turbomole system, and the transition state were optimized and characterized within one imaginary frequency using the Gaussian program. So manganese has been described throughout the paper on a polarized split valence basis, and the manganese was treated with a split valence triple X is the Greek letter basis plus one additional P function. The value is over there. And these are the references for the turbomole system and the Gaussian program. Now, in regards to the electronic structure of the manganese systems, Salin and Acinan, the most stable geometry of Acinan is a square planar coordination. This is an electronic quintet where the less stable triplet state is about 30 to 40 kilojoules per mole higher in energy. The singlet state is not considered to be catalytically significant. This is due to the fact that the singlet state undergoes a distortion of the square planar coordination mode of the Acinan ligand. It's therefore generally considered not to be catalytically important in the epoxidation reactions. And in regards to the tables, I'll show you on the next slide, the 5Mn3 refers to the quintet state geometry of Salin and Acinan, and these have an oxidation number for the triplet and singlet state of +5. Here we have two tables showing the relative energies of the quintet and triplet geometries of Acinan and Salin. As you can see from table 1, complex 2 shows the largest quintet triplet splitting, and complexes 2A to 2F are more energetically favorable in the quintet state than they are in the triplet state. This is due to the presence of electronic withdrawing ligands in the 5' position, such as nitrogen dioxide, which raise the quintet triplet gap. And alternatively, in the same position, you have electronic donating ligands such as a methyl ester, which lower the quintet triplet gap. Now, in accordance with previous studies, with table 2, complex 3 actually prefers the singlet state compared to the triplet state, and it's approximately 5 kilojoules per mole higher energy. And complex 3A to 3F are energetically more favorable in the triplet state than the singlet state. This is due to the extended aromatic system, which permits effective electronic destabilization, and this destabilization actually stabilizes the singlet state to the triplet, with the singlet being approximately 3 kilojoules per mole higher energy. Now, passing on to Ralph. Thank you.
This part is about the electronic property part. They actually use computational methods to stabilize the sensible molecular descriptor to help them develop a better understanding about these questions as I list here. And this is actually one of the main points of this study. Just like we talked about in the previous slides, the computational math used here is what called QSPR. It consists of many empirical parameters, and one of the most used parameter is called Hammond constant, and this is made up by electron resonance and the conjugation effects. To study those previous questions listed in the beginning of this section, they actually used two experiments to talk about that. The first experiment is about negative charge oxygen. They have found the results on the left side and also the correlation on the right side. With first the comparison and also the analysis of the charge and orbitals. We now know that the smaller amount of negative charge oxygen, the more favor the electronic attack on HOMO of olefinic system. And it means the system with the smaller amount of negative charge on oxygen center should result an earlier and a more idyllic transition state, and vice versa. The second experiment is to study the bond strengths and the substituents. With the interpretation of this formula, you can find the strength difference between different substituents, and you can find this correlation shows in the graph. With a combination of previous experiment results, now we know that the electron withdrawing substituents will have a smaller amount of negative charge and weaker double bond, and also a more idyllic transition state.
So in these slides, I will talk about the correlation of transition state geometries with Hammett parameters. In the paper, they also optimized the transition state geometries for the first CO bond in formation 4A to F, which are shown in the figure below here, if you can see it. And the epoxide formation is expected to proceed through first and second transition states, which correspond to the formation of the first and second CO bond. However, the first transition state in which the enantiomer selectivity is determined, since it is the first transition state leading to the formation of the first chiral carbon atom, and the second transition state could be determining for the overall reaction rate, for the distribution ratio of cis or trans products. The graph here shows the correlation between the modified Hammett constants and the bond length of CO bond. Distances for the evolving CO bond range from 1.98 to 2.05 angstroms, and systems with electron withdrawing groups react in an earlier, more EDUC-like transition state, whereas the system with electron donating groups react in a later, more product-like transition state. Systems with electron withdrawing groups also show a longer CO separation than that with electron donating groups. There are some further considerations based on studies about the enantiomer selectivity of epoxidation. First, a late transition state requires a certain proximity between the olefin and the manganese oxo complex, leading to less amounts of spatial separation between substrate and catalyst, and enhanced differentiation of diastereomeric transition structures. In addition, enantiomer selectivity is governed by interactions of the saline ligand, which in the transition state geometry adapts a folded geometry forming a chiral pocket and the incoming olefin. It is also suggested that because of the electronic influence of the 5,5 substituents, systems with a stronger MNO bond require a larger amount of activation energy and therefore react in a relatively late transition state. To conclude, electron withdrawing substituents and possessing weak MN bonds should react in an earlier, more EDUC-like transition state, vice versa. Besides, enantiomal selectivity is tied to the position of a transition state along the reaction coordinate is supported in the current work. Finally, electronic effects exhibited by the 5,5 substituents of the catalyst manifest themselves in a tuning of the Mn bond strength. That's the end of our presentation. Thank you so much.